the Around the NFL podcast. The number one pick on your team's draft board.
From the Chris Wessling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL. Dan Hanzus here. Gregg Rosenthal there. Marc Sessler also there. And we have reached draft week. It's finally here. We're just days away from knowing where all these young men will be. Not quite there yet, Mark.
No.
We are almost home.
Well, no, because, this week we have the mock draft that I'm creating coming up. And
the Marc Sessler mock
That's
draft?
when we will know where they're going. Then the actual draft will just confirm that the next day.
This is a dangerous part of the draft cycle, like today, Monday, maybe Tuesday of draft week. It was this time 1 year ago that the Vegas favorite to go number 2 overall was a gentleman by the name of Will Levis. There was also some movement that the Carolina Panthers might actually take Will Levis with the number 1 overall pick. And the numbers in Vegas moved to, he wasn't the favorite, but the odds were getting closer and closer that there was a chance. That man did not get taken in the first round of the draft.
No. And that's
Bad look for the desert.
good context.
Well, they're just trying to get people to pay.
I know, but I like this.
That's where we come in.
Yes.
Right. And we got your back in these days leading up to the draft. We will parse through all the hooey and applesauce. And it's our job, Mark, in a way, to let our listeners know what matters and what doesn't.
Yeah, I think we're the portal and the prison that you'd want to look through for the truth versus what is a lot of, white noise out there and unreliable reporting and whispers, Greg.
Wow. Yeah. I'm remembering that stuff about
noise from all different cultures.
Yes.
I just want to point out, it's not just white
That term
noise,
is not
but
racial.
yes.
It just means sort of like a fog of war type information drop.
Thank you for
also
the clarification.
a powerful Don DeLillo book, it
starts well.
a confusingly disappointing movie. Not my favorite by what's his name? Why am I spacing?
Noah Baumbach?
Noah Baumbach. But still worth
Adam Driver
seeing.
vehicle.
What film are we referring to?
White Noise.
White Noise.
White Noise.
Was it Netflix?
And this has been Steve Palazzolo's beat at the old PFF podcast.
Right.
On Twitter, he's been pointing out what the odds were at this point a year ago. C.J. Stroud was a 5-1, most likely to get the second overall pick. Tyree Wilson was also far more likely at this point, according to the odds, than C.J. Stroud going number 2 overall. So it just shows.
Part of our job here is our segment coming up. It's a tradition. It's one of my favorite shows of the year. It is Go Get My Lunch, you atomic turd. You know what I mean? Like where we make predictions about what's going to happen on Thursday, perhaps Friday, Saturday. And if we are correct and you are doubted, you end up getting hypothetical sandwiches. So that's cool. Yes?
We have some breaking news.
Breaking
Literal
news. Hit it.
breaking news.
Love it.
Former number 2 overall pick of the New York Jets, Zach Wilson, is on the move.
Hey.
According to Ian Rappaport.
The rap sheet.
He's going to the Broncos. Sean Payton, the deal includes a late-round pick swap, 6th for a 7th. And the Jets will also have to pay some of Wilson's $5.5 million.
That's what this is about. The Jets were holding out hope that they could find someone to eat some of this money, and apparently at least some of the money, I believe it's over $5 million due. So he goes to the Broncos, and that is there are after the Aaron Rodgers Achilles incident, it changed me fundamentally. I no longer view things with rose-colored glasses as a Jets fan.
Okay.
But the only
Until
time
they want to know.
Well, yes, but we're not there yet. But Zach Wilson's the one outlier for me as a Jets fan. It never felt right. I remember draft day. It was in the middle of COVID. Kind of being like, okay, they seem to really like him. We remember the throw from his pro day. He's a little small. He's a little bit of a pretty boy. He played for BYU. He didn't really face anybody of worth in a strange COVID season, but you kind of just You said, okay, Joe Douglas, we like Joe Douglas, and he's hot about this pick. That was always Joe's guy, Wilson. It was a disaster. And then when Rodgers did get hurt, he ended up getting 3 full seasons as a starter, which doesn't happen. A guy that's bad from the jump, getting 3 years doesn't happen. That wasn't the Jets' plan either. Their plan was for Rodgers to be the QB and him to be groomed on some level. Obviously, that all fell apart as well. So the Broncos, good luck to Zach Wilson. He always seemed like a pretty good guy that got put in a tough spot and did his best, but wasn't good enough. I don't know if Sean Payton can fix him, but the Jets getting him out of the building entirely makes a lot of sense for them. It's another big misstep in franchise history, a quarterback, and now they move forward once more.
I mean, absolutely needed for the player, to start there. Just there's no way that the Jets locker room, the Jets coaching staff, Zach Wilson could endure another regular season drama that involved him on.
And he got replaced as the backup quarterback already by Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, he had to go.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk about truths for the draft, I think the Denver's, they've been presupposed to be heat-seeking a quarterback in the draft. Don't need to now, Greg.
I don't think it changes their strategy. They needed a third guy along with Jarrett Stidham. Ben DiNucci is also on that roster. I would put
Benny D.
Zach Wilson probably over him. If he was ever going to rehab his career, Zach Wilson, and at this point, I think it'd be a good outcome for him if he has a good career as a backup and he's still in the league in 5 years. I don't think you should assume that. But if he wants to have that sort of career, Sean Payton's a good guy to get him pointed in the right direction. It's a reminder, though, that the draft industrial complex, it's tough. It's tough. It's like there weren't many, almost no one was out on a limb being like, no, I don't see Zach Wilson as a number 2 pick. They weren't even saying, no, I don't see him as a first-round pick. Everyone was in on Zach Wilson. It wasn't just the Jets.
Yeah, and a famous or infamous, depending on your perspective, Jets late season win over the Rams in L.A., caused them not to have the first overall pick. So just looking back again, this is a good draft to periodically check back in because it's a big-time quarterback draft. And on Thursday, we're probably going to get 3 straight quarterbacks taken. 2021, same thing. Trevor Lawrence goes number 1. Jury's out. He's a good quarterback. Is he a great one? We don't know. Zach Wilson, 2. Trey Lance, 3. That's maybe the worst 2-3 ever in NFL history for quarterbacks. That would be an interesting wormhole to go down. And then, of course, you had Justin Fields at 11. Not with his team anymore, and Mac Jones at 15, not with his team anymore. So it's just Trevor in those top 15 picks, 5 quarterbacks. Only Lawrence is still with his original team.
Well, I know a couple weeks ago, I sounded overly cynical about the quarterbacks in this draft, the draft in general, and it was no, you're supposed to be infused with hope at this point. But the reality is, all these quarterbacks we're talking about, 2 of them probably flame out on some level.
The red flags seem so obvious now
Mark.
with Zach Wilson.
No,
they're all going to be great.
Stop.
It seems obvious now. It's oh yeah, how did everyone fall in love
cynicism
with Zach Wilson? He faced no pressure at BYU. He's protected so well. He's in this lower level. People, how did we not see that Trey Lance wasn't going to be this guy? And I just pushed back on that because almost no one was pushing back at the time. So you can say that now that it's obvious that there were red flags. Very, very few analysts said no, I wouldn't take these guys in the first round. I mean, everyone was going to take Zach Wilson.
If anything,
people wanted to trade up. The Eagles wanted to trade up for Zach Wilson.
Right. I think during even after his shaky start, there were still people. It kind of reminds me of Sam Darnold a little bit too, where it's there are these people with their dug-in heels on these quarterbacks, and if you have the draft stock of going number 2, someone else out there is going to think they can make something out of you, no matter what's happened. And can Sean Payton do it? If he can, then he's going to be able to do all sorts of other things because that would be a slight miracle.
He can move. He could throw the football he could throw the hell out of a football. Everything else has been a mess, and he never really aced the test of whether from the neck up whether he can handle.
He was a little better as a third-year player to the point where you're okay, maybe he can settle in as a Drew Lock improving backup type. Maybe we'll see.
For a little bit there, and then it got so bad that they were playing guys that were street guys before they tried to go back to him, or did go back to him, and then he got hurt. Just let's close the chapter.
Bye-bye.
We move on. All right, anyway, so good start. We got a nice lead news item there. Wednesday, the Marc Sessler Mark draft. Shout out to a listener who put that on my radar.
Why did we not come up with that in previous years? I'd put the finger of blame at myself, number 1 there.
And always try to add something a little bit new to the Marc Sessler Mark draft. we're going to have a guest of high esteem in this world that's going to be involved with the process, not with the picks. That's your job. But
right,
it's
and I
going to
encountered
serve-
that. I encountered
Yes.
this guest to be in the newsroom, and we kind of hashed it out a little bit about how it's going to go. So, and I'm going to have there's some other surprises,
Right.
some new elements that haven't
Dan's
been.
not gonna like
passed.
that. He doesn't want anyone
Right.
deciding how it
we
goes.
haven't-
He wants to be the puppet master.
I will have the conversation about how it will go.
I am a human being who is allowed to
I see
speak
what you're
to other
doing.
human beings.
I
Well,
see
I
what
was.
you're doing. You're
wait a
trying to
minute.
control the segment.
No. Like,
But
if
you
anything,
just worry about your 32 picks.
how often are you like, why aren't we like our newsroom culture is a bit challenged these days?
Yeah.
It's kind of quiet in there. It's like I'm in there trying to.
We have a newsroom here?
Yeah, I talked with David Ely, talked with this guest. It's like that's what you do in a newsroom.
I'm just saying.
Share ideas.
I think talking is great.
Yeah.
Communication's great. But you got a 32 pick draft to figure out. And then Tugboat's got some other things around that episode to figure out.
Okay, I'll stand off. I'll stand.
Like,
down.
I'm not going to come into your mock draft.
I'm gonna be like Sessler in the fantasy spectacular and just hanging out, not knowing what I'm doing in the corner.
All right, let's hit the rest of the news.
I'm Eminem. This is Roger Goodell, and we are so fired up this year for the NFL Draft.
Live from the D.
You can just say Detroit.
That's what I said.
And you said the D.
Detroit.
Am I being punked?
D.
Pretty good acting by Rog in a big spot.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
Eminem aging, we had maybe a minor disagreement. I feel like Eminem is aging. Starting to look a little odd there. Now he seems to look more his age in a natural way.
I know that he has undergone some like health journeys to try to improve
Right.
his overall health, and I thought he looked good there in that clip.
I thought so too. Healthy.
The facial hair like adds an element too.
Right. There was a phase where he had a very dark black beard, and I don't know. I wasn't sure what was happening. It was like I had some Tom Brady Disney teacup questions for a while there.
But you're down on his looks, Greg.
No, I don't know. I
Burying
don't
him.
want to be put in that position.
Privately burying it.
I think it's been big. I think between the Lions and the Bye Bye Barry doc, and now we got the draft. Like Eminem NFL, it's a thing. We just need to deliver a Super Bowl appearance here by these Lions.
Absolutely. Let's get into the latest around the draft. Let's start with this something that kind of broke a couple days ago, and just keep an eye on it. So Jayden Daniels, we talked about it on the podcast last Wednesday. It was reported that Daniels, widely believed to be the number 2 overall pick on Thursday, was going to visit the Commanders, who have the number 2 overall pick. And then it was kind of weird because there was, 3 other quarterback prospects all bunched into the schedule at the same time. And everyone, at first blush, you're like, oh, that's a little odd. Why are the Commanders doing that? Then you have Jayden Daniels' agent liking some tweets pointing out or criticizing the Commanders for their strategy in terms of having visits, which, connects directly to the player. Then you have Adam Schefter on the McAfee show, which we would play, but we're not allowed to play clips on the Pat McAfee show without paying like $5 million. So I'll just tell you that Adam Schefter says that maybe Daniels, if he had his choice, wouldn't want to play in Washington, which then he tries to walk back that subsequently. However, Greggy, once you make that statement and you're Adam Schefter, that is going to take on a life of its own. So now there's this idea like this Eli Manning 04 Chargers vibe. Could that possibly happen? We'll see. Probably not. But
I don't think so because Jayden Daniels and the agent have come out sort of since this popped up and tried to quiet it down. Daniels was on Ocho Cinco's podcast with Shannon Sharp.
By the way, we still have that plan. We're lowering the amount of player podcasts to 70.
Okay.
And does
Well, they're
Chad
former.
get it?
Well, they're former players.
We're going to,
Well, you clump them onto the same.
70 active player podcasts? Greg, that's way.
Just players.
I mean, yeah,
former-
okay.
All right, do you want to make it
They're
former
just media members.
players and bump it up to 85?
Sure.
Okay, deal. Go ahead.
Yeah, Shannon Sharp, who
But you're actively listening to
Who-
these podcasts
who-
that we're about to cancel, so I don't know.
no,
Yeah.
not that one. This was from an aggregator that I believe it was from Pro Football Talk that noted Jayden Daniels was quoted on the record in a pod that just came out. I think it's Sunday or Monday, saying, "I want to go wherever I'm drafted. That's where I want to go." And so I think publicly it's
Damage
fine.
control.
The situation was weird. I've heard speculation. Just it might just be something where it's all whether you want all the executives, if it's ownership, like they're all there on one day and you can only get them all to, you can only get ownership to show up that one day, whatever. It's a strange story. It gives you vibes from the old Commanders, but ultimately it sounds like they're going to take their guy. Adam Peters, their GM, said, he all but shut down that they would trade out of the pick. He's like, we feel very strong that we're gonna take the pick.
Here was the quote from Schefter, Mark, on McAfee. I think Daniels thought he was going to get more FaceTime there than he actually did. It didn't work out exactly that way, but Jayden Daniels knows that he can't control where he goes in the draft, and his opinion doesn't matter where he wants to go. It's all up to the team.
I think this blows over. I mean, there were, by the way, 22 players at this meeting with the Commanders, and they took them to play Topgolf. And I heard where this became absurd to me was like, if you're Jayden Daniels and you're not a golfer, maybe you feel like you're not being put in the best light. But have you ever been to Topgolf? Like, kids do Topgolf. Like, I think Jayden Daniels, a soon-to-be pro football player, would thrive at Topgolf. And you're just sitting there eating chicken wings and drinking beer.
Here's the thing about golf. If you don't have any golfing experience, I don't care how good an athlete you are, you're going to struggle.
I know, but I suck at golf, and I went to Topgolf, and it was like, I don't need to. I think you're right. The activity matters, but there were a bunch of people there. There have been Bill Belichick told the McAfee show that it's not unusual to bring a bunch of people in, but I do think it's different for a quarterback, and I think it's fair to feel like if you want to be courted and you want to get to know an organization that's been a wayward organization for a long time, when you're looking at other teams, like Jayden Daniels is very tight with Antonio Pierce, and he's talked about the Raiders in a certain way that make you wonder if he had his choice, he has to come say what he's saying. I'll be happy to go anywhere, but I don't think in general that this happens unless the Commanders are a little bit suspect to him compared to other landing spots that could emerge. But he's going to get taken by them, I think, and then you just got to put a smile on your face.
Right. The fact is that Schefter specifically had talked about before any of this happened that if it was maybe up to Daniels, there's some other places that he was
maybe the next team
more
picking.
Into.
How'd you do in Topgolf?
I mean, I did fine. I mean,
you seem to insinuate that even though you're not a golfer, you were hitting the targets.
I would say
accumulating points.
I thought it was fun because 60% of my shots were an absolute disaster, but then just out of luck, you kind of peg one way down the.
Sure.
You feel great. You feel good, and
Few things make a dad feel better than you go to the Topgolf and you put one off the back net, just with residual dad strength, and it's like, deal with that. Little monsters. Dream to be as good as me.
I like playing sports against small children in general.
Yes.
Yeah,
we
talked
share
about
that.
this.
We share that. All right. In other news, what was the ding for? Was that because you are expecting, you and your wife, you looking forward to hammering your son?
That was
sports.
That was a great conversation about Topgolf. I agreed with everything you said. I suck at golf, and you just go and hit the hell out of a golf ball.
Right, it's good natured.
And there's always a little kid, and you just get a hold of one, and I don't have a child personally yet,
right?
But everything you guys said,
not that you know of.
No. But yeah,
the hesitation.
The Topgolf
conversation.
Well,
unless you count Larry.
Yeah. Topgolf was a perfect conversation. I agree with everything.
Great.
A perfect conversation.
Yeah.
ETP. The other thing about Topgolf, look out, by the way, because you take your couple sons there, maybe your wife comes, and they go, here, get a couple apps, get a couple beers. Oh, play for an hour. You walk out of there, it's like, where's my 2 rocks? They're gone.
Well, I would share
Banged
your
in a big
criticism.
spot.
That drained the wallet when I
The
went.
Commanders are trying to show we're not cheap. We'll take you to Topgolf. Here we go. We'll sponsor us. Probably not now. The Patriots, Greggy, they would need, according to a report, was it Burt Breer?
It was Mike Reese.
A blockbuster offer to not take a quarterback at number 3. And that makes all the sense in the world, right? The few teams in the league, when you just say, who needs a quarterback more than anybody? New England Patriots, when you're sitting there and there's a couple of good options, they would have to get blown away. And that makes sense.
It does, and yet there was a somewhat conflicting report from Diana Rossino of The Athletic just Monday morning saying that they're listening and that Elliott Wolf is running point, that Jonathan Kraft is potentially involved. And they have said essentially publicly, Elliott Wolf said it publicly just last week that, hey, we'll listen to anything. So you could see this as positioning.
Part of the dance.
Yeah, you could see this as positioning, part of the dance. And yet, I do believe that it would take something crazy for them to move off 3. Why would you not? But they might also really prefer one quarterback to another, which would be a totally reasonable feeling. And if that quarterback's not there, then suddenly they're more open for business.
I do wonder if Elliott Wolf and the whole crew there would ever consider trading up to number 2 and if they really think Washington's going to take their guy. And Washington's in this weird situation, potentially, just with what's happened this week. Maybe none of it matters, but like maybe they could flip-flop and Washington still gets one of the top 3 guys, but maybe not the guy they think doesn't want to play for them, and New England winds up with Jayden Daniels. You never know. Look where we were a year ago with the draft. We had no idea what was going to happen, and like weird stuff.
Could only be good
unfold.
for the Patriots or any team that's maybe hoping to get Daniels. That if there any chance there's something wonky there that would cause Washington to make a decision that could. Yeah, let's see. In other news, you dream of drafting a quarterback like Matt Ryan. And I think everyone knows that I have a bit of a history with Matt Ryan. Had a habit of throwing for exactly 26 touchdowns when I drafted him on my fantasy teams. But that's not what he should be remembered for. He should be remembered as one of the great quarterbacks of his era. And he was. And he's a former MVP. And he ended his career not in such hot terms with the Colts. It was a forgettable end, but a lot of great Hall of Fame level quarterbacks ended careers with other teams in a poor manner. So we don't remember him for the fantasy seasons that didn't measure up. We don't remember him we don't want to only remember for the Super Bowl in 28-3 or the Colts. Let's remember Matt Ryan on this day that he retires from the NFL as a damn fine quarterback.
I want you to know that every day I felt the responsibility to give you the best version of myself. While we didn't accomplish everything we had hoped, I am proud of what we did. And I know that I gave everything I could to be the best that I possibly could. You have no control in this profession of where you start. I am so lucky that my start and now my finish is here in Atlanta.
That was I think that's probably the future of how these careers end, with a highly produced video shared with social. It's already happening, but watching it with Ryan made me think of that. Like, things are different now than the old statement or calling the press conference. So there's probably going to be a press conference. Ryan, Gregg, came in as a highly touted first-round pick for a team that was, looking desperately for a quarterback after the Michael Vick fiasco for the Falcons. He goes number 3 overall in 2008 and immediately was a QB1 for them.
Well, they, at the time, famously had never had back-to-back winning seasons in franchise history. And when Matt Ryan arrived, his first 5 years, 11 wins, another winning season after that. He went 9-5 when he was the starter, 13-3, 10-6, 13-3. And you said, like, we don't want to remember him just for the Super Bowl. I guess I would just say he played very well in that Super Bowl. He went against the Bill Belichick defense, which we gave so much credit for shutting down Sean McVay, and I know they were better in 2018 than they were in 2016 in terms of the defense, and he lit them up. And his defense let him down, and you could say the play calling let him down, and he had a couple bad plays, certainly in the second half, but it was mostly his running back letting him down in terms of pass protection. He averaged 12 or 13 yards per attempt in the Super Bowl and was dominating the Patriots, whereas if you're playing for any other team that doesn't fall apart in the way that their defense did, he's a Super Bowl champion, and he was great in that entire run. He was great in the NFC Championship. He was obviously the MVP that season, and he was very rarely a top 5 quarterback, so I actually don't think he's a Hall of Famer. He's going to be an interesting case. Someday I went back and looked at like the QB index rankings that we had for him, and we only started in 2013, but he only finished top 5 once that MVP season, and then he was around 8 or 9 or 10 a couple other times, and he was more in the 10 to 12 range and putting up good numbers and a really solid quarterback year after year. But he should be a champion, and I hate that he is looked at, and I'm sure he feels so differently because that's how sports.
You even hear it in what he said.
Right.
We didn't accomplish everything we wanted. A direct allusion, obviously, to something that he'll never shake.
It reminds me a little bit, different player, different statistical outputs, but the way you feel about Dan Marino's career, where it's like there was this one thing that never happened to Dan Marino, and it kind of leaves him at times out of certain conversations. It's just like Matt Ryan to me, though. If you're one of these teams this week picking a quarterback, you'd be so lucky to have this. He missed 3 games in 14 seasons with the Falcons. Like the durability, he's one of these guys that just like the rock, he's there every week, the durability. And I always found like I couldn't get a grasp of Matt Ryan's personality for like a decade plus. And when they were on Hard Knocks the one time, I thought he was one of the winners on that show where you started to see him differently and like he was a true leader inside the building. And the Colts season was that's when I did QB Index, and that was a tough watch to track weekly because that was Matt Ryan falling off a cliff. And I know he wanted to come back last year, but go do your announcing thing. You had a very excellent career with the Falcons.
As his career went on and you started to learn more about him and read, reports about him, that he was one of the more intense competitors ever. And he was not above really giving it to his teammates on the field. A lot of hot mics will pick up. He was a guy that would get on you and chew you out if you didn't do the job the right way. But Peyton Manning did the same thing as well. Remember, God damn it, Donald. Like, that's part of being, he was a true, tried and true QB1 franchise type starter. I think, because I'm with you, I think that he falls just a little bit short.
What if he had won the Super Bowl?
Well, here's the thing. I was going to say 2 things. You finish off that game, and he did take a awful sack that contributed to that meltdown. But yeah, it was blown.
But he also had what would have been one of the best throw-in catches, and Julio Jones's catches maybe even better.
That was the same possession, though.
Right, same possession. Well, all I mean, though, is in any other scenario where you just hand the ball, your coach, you have a decent running game, you run it 3 times, you kick the field goal, and you win. That has nothing to do with Matt Ryan. Or you have a defense that makes a single stop.
Right.
Then then you're remembering that throw. So it's just tough how football works, especially.
If they finish that game off and he won the MVP that year as well. So you had the MVP, you would have a Super Bowl, and he finished with 381 touchdowns. And I know people don't care about nice round numbers anymore. We go a little deeper, but if he would have had a decent final run with the Colts, he gets over 400 touchdowns, and those things that he just missed will keep him out of the hall probably, but Matty Ice, also a great nickname, had an awesome career.
I will say he also had one of my favorite NFL throws of my entire fandom. This happened a couple of years ago where, he's trying to hit someone along the sideline, overthrew the receiver, and absolutely devastated a cameraman. I mean, the cameraman was lost at sea for the rest of the week.
You love that stuff. You love...
I mean, it was unintentionally hilarious and caused problems.
You love the juxtaposition of big, strong football players with normal people, and what happens when they're either standing next to each other and something as innocuous as a photo being taken, or getting run over, or being run past. Like, you just love that. You love that.
Well, when we're at those London games, there's a
you love that.
No, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, this is where I could get hit with a football.
You love that
70 miles.
Come on, ETP.
He loves it.
I love him.
Thank you.
Top 10 in yards and touchdowns, but that's hard to evaluate.
All right, and finally in the news and other quarterback news, the NFL lost one of its MVPs, another MVP, Roman Gabriel, former number 2 overall pick of the Los Angeles Rams in 1962, and also the first Filipino-American quarterback in the NFL. Died on Saturday, 83 years old. He did win league MVP in 1969. Natural causes. Died peacefully at home.
He had an interesting career because he was drafted by the Raiders in the AFL and the Rams, and chose between the 2 teams to go to the Rams. And I watched some stuff on him this weekend, and he was 6'5", 220 pounds. And now that's just like what you want in a quarterback. But in 62, he was a bit of an outlier. And he had the strongest arm in the league for years in a row. And after the Rams gave up on him, he went to the Eagles and won Comeback Player of the Year. They were done with him. He didn't even really get started till his 6th season. But the one thing I like about him, because it reminds me of Jim Brown a little bit, is he used LA to the max. He was on Wonder Woman. He was on Gilligan's Island. He was on Perry Mason. He did a film with John Wayne and Rock Hudson. He did a film with Jackie Gleason.
Wow.
He basically he's I'm going to become one of the first strong-armed gunslinging quarterbacks who's also a movie star.
This is where I wish Wes was here. He would have some good Roman Gabriel takes. But you filled in.
That's the response I'm looking for.
No. I'm just saying he would have some strange story that he read in a book. But yeah, he over-indexed. Also, one of the great Asian American, American sports stars of all time.
He was Filipino-Irish, by the way.
Good combo.
You don't find that too often.
Not often, but it's possible.
Well, yeah, sure.
Been
If an
proven.
Irish, person and a Filipino person were to reproduce, that
What
would
happens when
create
they
that.
do? MVP.
You'd-
It's
bingo.
It is interesting, and he was not a Hall of Famer. Compare him to Matt Ryan. Won an MVP, three All-Pro teams, 4 Pro Bowls, the exact same as Ryan, and he did not make the Hall of Fame. His resume looks a little stronger at the top end than Matt Ryan's, and he did not make it.
11 years for the Rams, 5 years with the Eagles. Roman Gabriel, rest in peace. Let's take a break, and when we return, sandwich props.
And
All right.
we are back. We're
All right.
back. Do
Show
it
is
again.
continuing.
I thought you were making do it again.
That's perfect. That works for me.
No, we're keeping that.
Welcome back to Around.
I never know. Hold on. So Colleen had to do that the other
Can we
week.
clip that up? I want that one too as a.
She received clear instructions on how to perform the task. You tell me during the break, let's come back with Mark, coming out of the Bayside, and I'm trying to do a great job, and then it's like I'm.
You're talking about right now?
Yeah,
What
I'm
just
hoodwinked
happened?
again.
Dan is weirdly like an offensive coordinator that actually sets up his players to fail and then laughs like it's just.
No,
Twist
You
it.
couldn't be more pleased with the outcome.
No, there's
I do not
something-
feel the same.
There's something about this bit that continues to flummox you, because when I asked you to do the original one,
Right.
I was trying to get you just to do what Greg had done, which was a different version.
When I
of
wasn't
what
here, though.
I did. Oh, I didn't. Yeah. Well,
So I was going in sight unseen.
right. So then, so we got something different, and now we have this but you've been here for multiple shows where we're in a break, and I'll say, okay, let's come back with, Connie Bayside. So I just did that, but you thought I was cueing you, but I was clearly cueing the.
This is an example of you operating in your own space and thinking that it makes sense to person B, and person B is trying to do something fresh from their own mind, and it's not. It's colliding.
It is, and I'm sorry to the listeners. I think they're the ones that lose ultimately. All right, before we get into sandwich props, let's give some props to Trent Baalke, who is the general manager of the Jaguars, who found himself in the news cycle briefly in the past week for, I would say unusual reasons. Let's play it.
We're not there yet. We still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet. We'll do that on Monday.
That's so good. So good. It's kind of amazing. It's never happened before, but it's so good. And he didn't stop what he was saying. He said, "Excuse me."
That's the key.
He said, "You could have gone, excuse me, could have gone, pardon me."
Owned it.
Very polite, and then continued his statement. It's draft season. That's the most important thing. I'm so excited about it. I can't control myself in the moment, but I will apologize for it.
I mean, if anything, I give him credit
Oh,
for
yeah.
just simply rolling through it. It's like, oh, are you a human being? Do these things happen to the physical body? Yes, they do. Let's keep talking about the draft.
Yeah. Have you beefed? I mean, if you have not beefed, do not raise your hand.
I do love this headline, by the way. Can we put this on? And TMZ decided, you could create multiple headlines for this.
Mock if you have not beefed.
This is so TMZ. It's like Jaguars GM Trent Baalke, and then it's in banger all caps, farts during news conference with 3 question marks.
Triple question mark in a big spot.
Then ... fans convinced. 3 slammers. Fans convinced. Like, I think we all saw what happened there.
he literally apologized for it in the moment. Yeah, there was no mystery to what went on there. But I think it's good. I think we should normalize this. It happens.
We should start doing it.
We're all human.
It should happen more often.
Yeah, I think we should be very cool about it. So congratulations to Trent Baalke for relieving himself in a big spot.
He sounds a lot like Marty Funkhauser.
He does.
Oh, you're right.
I was thinking of that. He who is without sin can cast the first stone. John 8:7, Mark.
I think that's why if you want to point to a reason why that phrase was said thousands of years ago, you'd look at this moment.
He who has not beefed can cast the first stone.
There you go.
No stones.
Like
That's all.
unless you were born like 8 seconds ago, that applies to like every human.
All right. Now, pivot point. It's time. It's time. It's a tradition. I love it. We love it. I think you love it, the listeners. We are going to play a little game we call Go Get My Sandwich. Ya beeper. Ooh. How about that sound? The biting sound, Mark. Chewing. Tough.
I don't like the word beefed, by the way.
No, I don't either.
Makes you uncomfortable.
No, it's just like, I think Greg
What?
understands where I'm
What's
going.
wrong with it? What's the problem?
It's a little too rich.
I just have a immediate reaction to it. Plus, I love beef, and so I just don't like mixing that up.
Got it.
Went to K-Town last night. Had some just delicious
Beef.
beef. Yes.
Okay, I'm just saying. It's all connected in a way.
It is.
So we go around. We each make a prediction about what's going to happen in the draft. A reminder, I don't think we have to remind each other. I think we all know at this point, but just it's good to get it out there. We want to have all these buttoned up by the end of the draft, the end of the 7th round on Saturday, so we can then at the end of the Saturday show be able to say our sandwich is owed, our sandwich is not owed. What are you talking about, Dan? Sandwiches. We each make a prediction, and then the other two people get to say, I agree or I disagree. And if they disagree, it's a sandwich prop. Bet, wager, and then whoever is right collects sandwiches. We have all-time standings that you can check out at gogetmylunch.org. And that has every single prop we have ever made. And there's some whoppers draft season. And as always, you must hang onions on at least one of your wagers.
I hope maybe you try these onions, you'll like them. They're real sweet onions.
And what does that mean to hang onion, Marc Sessler?
That means to, don't give us a milquetoast run-of-the-mill prediction about something vague or boring happening that we pretty much know will happen. Go out there, create some spice, something, disarming, something completely unpredictable. Put yourself on the line, put your creative mind on the line, and see what happens. Let it fly.
And shout out, as always, to Nick Fortier, who's been running the gogetmylunch.org site for a long time. We did not do very well in the predictions last year. Greg, Mark, you hit one that Packers drafted at least 4 wide receivers / tight ends.
Wow.
I hit that the Texans stay at number 2 and draft a QB, which you guys both took me on. I guess there must have been a lot of speculation.
Well, I just mentioned that.
That's right.
That was plus 500.
Moving on out. That's right. Anyway, and then we got everything else literally wrong. So it's hard. Let's get started. Greg, why don't you get us going?
Okay. Dan, if you listened to our Thursday show.
Loved it. Great up.
With Move the Sticks.
Didn't think that was probably the right move, but he's on the show, and what can you do? You can't scrub it.
We wanted to keep you guys separate, and I know it hurts you to listen to him, but if you did, you might have heard me just mention, because I've been trying to look around, with my contacts inside the league. Let's be real. Employees of this company.
Let's be even more real, Ian.
Yeah, no, a lot of guys. A lot of guys, girls, all over the place. It's like, why is this guy Johnny Newton, who I'm fascinated with?
I love the inclusive
from Illinois
move there. That was good.
But it's true. I had a very specific, I have been asking around, looking for people to tell me that Johnny Newton is going to go higher than expected. And I can't really find it. So this is from
nobody.
Other inside information other than what I see.
Oh, here we go.
With my eyes.
Here we go.
When I turn on the tape and I see a top-notch player, a guy who can be a big-time difference maker, and I think all these teams are staying quiet because they must see what I see when it comes to Johnny Newton. So then I went this morning and I checked out.
Can you clarify for people that aren't
Johnny
totally
Newton,
aware
defensive tackle, Illinois, one of the top defensive tackles in the league.
Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year in 23.
Mina sent me this link of, maybe I'll send it out, of him in high school, just doing the thing where it's ridiculous how much he's just destroying these kids in high school.
Mark likes that.
Those are always fun. Exactly what I'm looking for.
So I went and I checked, a respected site out there, see where his over-under is as we tape this on Monday, heading into the draft. His over-under for the draft is 31.5. I can't believe it. First of all, do not let this man get to the
What a start here. I love
Chiefs
it.
And put him next to Chris Jones. I see that 31.5. That means they think maybe the Chiefs are a team. Do not let this man fall. And so for the first time ever, I think at the draft, they're actually going to open up the stadium and they're going to combine a sandwich with a big-time rainstorm. The Rainmaker's coming out for the draft. He is getting taken before 31 and a half. I say it's way before, but it's way before. All you need to get is 31 and a half. Johnny Newton.
Did you not let the Glass know that a Rainmaker was coming?
I did let him know. How else would they be able to play this?
Yeah, but where's our graphic?
I don't like that graphic, you know?
Oh.
I don't like that graphic. No, I'm kidding. I didn't ask for the graphic or not, but it's fine.
We exist for that Rainmaker graphic. That's what we're here for.
I love this. I love this.
Let's combine two,
Okay, I like
two
it.
old bits.
I like old bits coming together as a new.
When you spoke to guys and girls,
Yes.
did any or were they almost also flummoxed by the?
No, they were just like, what? They didn't get much of a didn't get much.
There it is.
If you're watching on YouTube,
Check it out.
the graphic is here.
I like when he shoots the money out of his mouth and it spins around. Erica's most lasting contribution to the program.
I do like
Was
that.
Greg during these like the suit and tie era?
I think I was coming straight from an NFL Network show, and yeah, I looked like I was showing up in West Hartford for a day at the Mutual.
All right, so I got a little sidetracked when you combine them. So
Yeah, me too.
He is what? Like what is
he has to be drafted ahead of 31 and a half, but I just thought I would combine two things to give our listeners an early opportunity at
Ahead of 31
making some rings.
So 31 and below.
31 and below.
Okay. I mean, you caught me off guard. I got to do my
It's too late to do
Newman's
research now.
Research, like where is he? Newton's. Where is he being mocked in? Where is he?
Well, there's
a
a consensus big board out there,
Where is he on the consensus big board?
which I believe has him
I call him Jack Newton.
around. That's what they base these things on. But he's higher on the consensus big board. I guess the Draftniks like him a little better.
All right. Where is he? Where is he going?
In the mid-20s.
And you're saying he's going? Okay.
I'm looking at an article from
25 is what I found.
SI that says, "Could Johnny Newton fall out of the first round?"
Right.
Although
Well,
they have
they're putting it
They
there.
have no answer.
All I'm
obviously,
saying is that's where the
He's got any medical red flags? Got any off the field issues?
no.
Well, he missed the scouting combine with a fracture in his foot.
His name is Jerzon Newton. I like that. That's good. He should go with that over Johnny. It's always good business to take the sandwich guy. I'm not going to do it in this case.
Greg, I think
I
little
should
safe.
point out, yes, he did have foot surgery in the pre-draft process. That would have been in January, but he played through it.
one fatal flaw
looked good
in your pitch was that
Yes.
you're so self-confident about this happening that you make me not want to take you on the.
That's fair.
comments.
I guess I'm thinking more about the listeners and the Rainmaker, and it's a big spot. You never know when it could be the last Rainmaker.
But I'll
wanna get it right.
take you just because
Fair.
why not? I'll take you
Okay, thank you.
for the show aspect, Dan.
That you're a showman. Showman. Yeah, I will not take you up on it. I don't know why. I just won't. I'm not going to do it.
You know what I also thought when I saw that number? That's perfect. I am looking for things to have me to add even more excitement to this first round of the draft. Not that we need to. It's the draft. But when it was 31, I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. As we get towards the end of the draft, I'll be rooting.
You've got something to
Newton
track.
pick.
That's
Although I think it could be much higher.
that's nice for you.
So Schrager sends out a tweet today
Ooh.
that Johnny Newton
Uh-oh.
is not even on his list of, like, he's pointing out in the tweet that there's never been a more lopsided offense to defense NFL draft first round. From Convos, I only have 6 surefire first round picks on D right now. Murphy, Turner, Latu, Arnold, Mitchell, Verse. And then he has a later first, very early second guys, DeJean, Chop Robinson, Darius Robinson, Wiggins, and McKinstry. So based on that, and
Ooh, he didn't even list
he's
them.
not even listed, so I will take you up on it now.
I think that's smart.
I needed to do a little research
Sure.
just in time. So there's something going on there because Schrager's pretty plugged in.
Foot surgery is not ideal.
It is good that we actually did he didn't want us to do research,
No,
but
he didn't.
and, no,
He didn't
there's
think
no-
we would.
There's no medical issues, but
Okay.
he's just had foot surgery, which sounds like an issue.
He missed the.
Some
Oh, it's a Jones fracture in the foot. I don't like that either.
That's unpleasant.
That's tricky, Greggy.
I don't like
That's a
Sweet
cousin of the
Schrager.
Liz Frank, that harlot, Scorpion
Because that's
woman.
tough to sell your fan base on. Sometimes, this guy just had surgery, so of course we take him in the first
I
round.
believe in the play.
Oh, he's got a Jones fracture. Oh yeah, bring him in first round, please. Who does that? All right,
And
bud.
Balky.
And also big men with feet injuries, a foot injury. Let's go. All right, I'm up next. Here we go. This one is not, I'm not going to say it's ballsy because it's conventional wisdom in a lot of these mock drafts. However, how often do we see that what everyone thinks is going to happen isn't going to happen? With that in mind, this will be the draft where the top of the board goes exactly as everyone's talking or close to it. So the first, and so what's going to make this one a tougher one for me to hit is it's so big. It's a big swath of the first round. I'm saying the first round will go QB, wide receiver, offensive tackle. First 7 picks.
Well,
Okay, I will take you because I think you just say number 4. That would be the Cardinals in theory staying home and taking Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right.
I think they're trading that pick. I do. I think that's where the 4th quarterback goes. So I'll take you.
I would take you just not even knowing what year I'm in, what's happening. You're trying to match 7 slots with specific positions.
Right, which
doesn't
the players, whatever the players are.
What? Yeah.
Because we know the QB one, and then those 2 quarterbacks are probably next to each other. The 3 wide receivers, we don't know what order they're going to go in, but it's probably going to be Harrison first. But they'll all be bunched together, and then Joe Alt goes to the Titans. That's the way I see it.
I mean, this to me is a massive onion hanger, a bigger one.
I hope maybe you try these onions, you'll like them. They're real sweet onions.
Then you realize, I mean, they got the, you go to the horse track.
Yeah.
They got the trifecta.
Yeah.
They got the superfecta.
I'm trying to hit a straight flush here.
Yeah, this is the super duper fecta. I'll take you on that.
All right.
I like it though. That's right out of the gate. That's a creative one.
I reached out to NFL Research this morning. Love the work they do. Always have. I said, has the draft ever gone all QB and wide receiver in the first 6 picks? And Ben McWilliams replied, that has never happened in the common draft era, Dan. However, he's got a however. Ben in a big spot. However, each of the first 6 picks in 2021 were pass catchers, 3 QBs, 2 wide receivers, and Kyle Pitts, which is the closest we have come to that scenario. So this would be the first time if it does indeed happen. Okay, Mark, you're up.
I'm going to get hyper specific because
I'll take it.
This is my sports lock of the week.
Okay.
This is a 2-parter. The Eagles will take Clemson linebacker Jeremiah Trotter after his father played with the Eagles 3 different times.
You love that too. Another Mark trope.
These things need to happen. And I was saying this with Joey Porter Jr. all last draft season, and it happened, and it worked, and it's a good move. But so the Eagles will take Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and the Chargers will take Michigan running back Blake Corum, which I've been on that case for eons.
Why not just pick one of these? I mean,
no, because they're both going to happen.
I would wish we could put conditions. I don't think we should. It gets too complicated. But we should. I want to do a sandwich on each of these. Split them up, and so I get 2 sandwiches because you're not going to get either one.
I completely think you're wrong.
Or the odds are you won't. I don't really know. The future is.
It's commendable
untold.
for you to do this. But it's so hard to hit 2.
But there is connective tissue. There is connective tissue with both landing spots for both players. And Howie Roseman literally went out of his way to say that Jeremiah Trotter was on their radar.
People say a lot of things.
Our job is it feels like an Eagles thing. It just feels like an Eagles thing to do.
No, I
they
think
value that.
That's a good point.
Would you love it for the Eagles, Greg, if they did it?
Well, I think if Howie Roseman said in a public setting that he's on his radar,
I'm not saying that
you just lock it in.
I'm not saying that means much, but why say it at all?
Because you like
ETP.
his dad, and you're just trying to boost up his kid's stock.
I think that there's NFL bloodlines matter, and if you're Harbaugh, you're not going to take your running back who was who dazzled for your
You had
college team.
You had your little dance with Porter last year, I believe. Was that who it was?
Yes, Joey. And
it was a nice moment for you.
It crescendoed in complete victory.
We were all very proud that you did it. Now you're going back to the well, and it's suicide. It's suicide. And you can dance and celebrate if you get it right.
Let's talk on probably
It's like sometimes you got to know when
Friday.
to leave well enough alone. You had a big.
You
hit.
had that corner.
You're coming back to it.
And it's gonna what it's gonna do? It's gonna cheapen the Porter pick.
No, it has no effect on that because that was just a clear-cut
It's been
check mark victory.
Wait, developing news. We're getting word. Yes, it will cheapen the porter thing.
Unless you nail it, and then it'll
If-
make it even better.
If I nail it, then it's like you just hang
total
up the
party.
cleats at that point and just like
But you got to get both. Because
I
Greg
would-
and I aren't going to sit here and hand you bouquets of roses if you get one of them.
I wouldn't accept a bouquet.
I will
of
give you verbal credit if you get one
Verbal
of the
credit.
two, but I'm taking the sandwich.
Well, verbal
Roses
credit means a
for
lot.
1 out of 2?
No.
50% is not good enough here.
I don't
Verbal
think-
credit would
I don't think
be
you're getting either.
always welcome.
All right.
All right.
Greg, another round.
While we're throwing exact darts out, I want to make sandwich props that I want to root for, like picks you want to root for. And so let's just keep it simple. The Patriots do take Drake May and deliver me back into the womb of Foxborough Stadium with a nice, exciting.
Wait, you're
young
going
quarterback.
back into the womb?
That's not how it works.
We're starting the journey again. We had an incredible journey
Could be tricky.
that will never be topped, and then it ended.
You're coming home.
And this is rebirth. This is a new me.
You texted me over the weekend,
That's not true.
Greg. Wait, you literally did.
Well, I did about the Dodgers, but what else?
It's about the Dodgers.
Okay, sorry. Zip, zippy doo, zip around.
You texted me and you said you were at the game with your family, and you said, "I think that you like me better when I'm like a baseball fan or watching baseball." To which is I wouldn't say I like you better, but I do like that's like the most wholesome thing about Greg when he's just like, "Hey, this is the sport I love," and I think it's the most wholesome version.
It's why I thought of you. I'm sitting in a long line waiting for the Dodger dogs just with some time to kill. And I'm like, oh, Dan would be happy to know I'm here at the Dodgers game. I'm going to text him.
I will. So I don't like you better when you're at a baseball game, but I do like you better when you're not lying about your Patriots fandom. So, like,
Oh,
if
how dare
this
you.
brings you back,
This is stupid.
if this brings you back in a real way, let's do it. I'm with you and
Okay.
I'm rooting for you, even if it
Okay.
could be danger for the rest of the AFC East.
So you're not taking him on the.
Would that mean I'm not taking him? It's always a little.
I don't
tricky.
know. How does this game
You
work?
do take me if
I want
unless-
him to. I want to root along with you on this.
Okay.
So let's bring
Okay,
Drake
so
in.
you're not taking me.
I didn't take you on the last one either, though, so it's a little tricky.
No, you did in the end.
Right.
You
Oh, I
gave-
did. That's
You
right.
did. Like,
Okay,
I
good.
think for the sake.
Yeah, I
of the
won't
show,
take you up on it.
I will take you, but I have noticed, Greg, that like your fascination with Drake May, and I'm like starting to watch him more and more. I'm like, I see where you're coming from. Like, this is a spicy player, but this is huge for you. I feel like your Patriots fandom hinges on this player going to New England. You've been talking in a certain way about the pairing here for a couple of weeks. I haven't really heard you talk about the Patriots with passion in this way in a while, or the possibilities.
He's nervous about J.J. McCarthy.
Well, right, because Dan's saying I've been lying about my Patriots. The only
All right,
if
lying's
there's been-
strong.
if
You're
there's been-
lying,
If there's
but,
been any
you know.
exaggerating going along, it's that I actually have to pretend for Dan's sake that I'm
stop it,
overly
Matt,
invested.
For Dan's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the dynamic. I will
Please.
take you. I will take you.
Okay.
Please. Oh, don't get me started on the Browns with you, Sestog.
But Dan, I mean, it wouldn't even. I wouldn't be walking around town, or nor would Greg, talking about our fandom if it weren't, if we weren't in this setting. So
Okay. Next. The Chiefs, they stop messing around and they trade up and get one of these wide receivers. Now,
It's a good one.
I don't want to. I can't say one of the big three because they're so. I think they're going to be so hotly contested that, like I've already predicted, I think they're off the board by 7. But one of the who are the secondary guys like Brian Thomas, who are some
He would be an exciting
that next tier.
MVS replacement. My God.
they could trade up potentially to get that kind of mid round.
So they
Could be A.D. Mitchell. Could be Xavier Worthy. Anyone that they like. That's what it's fun about. It could be McConkey. It could be, or they could stick and pick. But for you to get this, you're saying they have to.
They have
trade
to
up.
make a trade to move up the
Okay.
board and then take a wide receiver.
Well, I'm definitely taking you on that because even specifically saying wide receiver, that feels 50-50 to me.
Oh, because they could go get Brock, for instance, as well.
No, I just mean they could take any position. You never know what the value is going to be at that point.
Can I
But to make it trading up for, you could throw Bauer.
can I modify it? Yeah,
Sure.
because I think it's important for this. What I'm saying is they're going to be aggressive to add that playmaker pass catcher. So
Okay.
could be Bowers or another tight end, but probably Bowers.
I wrote, I come up with about 13, 14 sandwich props here, but like, book it, Charlie, Kansas City will trade up for a wide receiver. So I believe in what you're saying, but again, just for the sake of the parlor game, I'll take you.
It's always smart to take it. I'll take you on that.
Okay. Mark.
This one's simple. The Dallas Cowboys will take a quarterback in the first 2 rounds.
My onion hanger was Cowboys related. Now suddenly we're a little Cowboys heavy.
Buy into us.
That is fun. I will take you on it. Again, these are generally less than 50-50 propositions here. That would be doing something that I just haven't seen them do, which is think past this year. And they just don't do that. And maybe they should. And maybe they'll think about it after seeing Jordan Love, rock the NFC. But I still don't.
2 things, right? That, what you're saying, and also we've never outwardly seen them doubt the idea of Dak Prescott as being that dude, right? They've always believed in that. And has that changed behind the scenes and in part because of his contract situation and the difficulties around that? I think it's way more likely when, what is the now much derided quote that Jerry Jones had, that they were going to be all in on the offseason.
Essentially.
I think what he is going to be able to spin that at, because obviously because of their financial hurdles that they've been dealing with, they weren't able to make big splashes in this offseason. But what he's going to spin that as, I think, is using the top of his draft class to bring in an offensive lineman, maybe to find somebody to replace the left tackle, to add a playmaker. I think that's what their path is going to be. So it'll be about helping and aiding Dak rather than adding this drama. But also, I can totally imagine waking up Friday morning or Saturday morning, and that's what everyone's talking about because the Cowboys have entered this into the dialogue.
Right. I think it really depends kind of how the board falls. And if someone like Penix Jr. came into their mix, I just wonder if that's where Jerry Jones gets kind of tempted. Because I switched out. I went with the Cowboys, but the other one I had was that the Seahawks will take a quarterback in round 1, and I think they're going to.
I really don't.
So, but I thought the Cowboys was.
I'll take you on the Cowboys one.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'll take you on it.
Yeah,
and I'm going to stick with Cowboys because it was specific and it does relate to yours. So
this is your onion hanger.
Hold that thought. Let's take a break. We'll come back with the Cowboys again. All right, we're back. And back to the Cowboys with Gregg Rosenthal, sandwich props.
Okay, so where I would push back from you, and I would like to see this Cowboys team change the way they do things. And they have picked up guys who've kind of fallen in the draft. You're like, oh, how did CeeDee Lamb get to him? How did Zach Martin back in the day, or even Travis Frederick, some of these guys that go later than you expect. But to me, last year they showed who they are. It's like, oh, we really need a defensive tackle to play right away. Let's draft Mozzie Smith. That looks like a little bit of a reach. Oh, our tight end leaves for the Texans. We need to take a tight end, Schoonmaker, in the second round. It didn't really hit the field. And they have so many obvious needs right now, and they've gone into the draft having picked up Royce Freeman as their free agent running back that it just seems so clear they're like, we are going to take our starting running back in the draft, and they are going to be as predictable as possible, and they know that 56 is the perfect spot for it. So I say they use that 56 spot. They're taking their starting running back with that spot. That doesn't feel onion hangery enough for me, but I feel very confident in that. And I say they get as basic as possible, and they're just look in the same state, and they see Jonathan Brooks, and they're like, oh, this is a guy who's a little devalued because he's coming off a torn ACL, but he would have been the number 1 guy, and this can be our Zeke for the next 5 years. Jonathan Brooks is the fantasy running back winner of the night because he gets taken by the Cowboys there.
I like that one. A need. Pollard flopped last year in his chance to be the big guy. Zeke deep in the rear view. Maybe he's coming back. Maybe he's not. I'll take you on it, though. Very specific. Always take the specific ones.
Good thinking. That is very Dallas-ish, but I'll take you.
They're going to make – I think the only thing I feel confident about, and I think it makes all three of us potentially right here, is that they're going to want to make a splash move. Because you know what Jerry Jones hates? Everyone's saying that he's not doing anything. Like he wants to do something fun. He's not going. I don't think they're going to take a guard in the first round. All right. Onion hanger time.
I hope Maybe you try these onions, you'll like them. They're real sweet onions.
I don't even know who this is, honestly. I could throw out a couple, like
The farmer?
a certain. No, I hope. No, I don't know him either, but I hope he's still with us. Sounded old when we started playing the drum. You start doing the math, you start to get nervous.
50-50.
Yeah. Maybe this is a certain wide receiver out of San Francisco, although I don't necessarily buy into that. But it could be hypothetically anyone. I want to be careful with the wording here. I was going to say an all-pro player.
No.
But I'm going to go Pro Bowl player. A Pro Bowl player will be moved in a trade between now and midnight Friday morning.
Any position.
Any position.
Oh, interesting. Because like Ayuk, for instance, has he made a Pro Bowl?
If he hasn't, then I need to recalibrate this.
Well, how about
for a guy that's supposed to be a superstar? I hope he's made at least one Pro Bowl.
you could say Pro Bowl player and/or Brandon Ayuk.
He has not made the Pro Bowl. He actually was second team All Pro, which is a harder honor to reach.
All right, so
and a first team All PFF, which I didn't know is now listed on Pro Football Reference. So
good job by that.
Fully to PFF.
All right, so someone that has either been named to an All Pro team, first or second team, a Pro Bowl, or the hallowed PFF top 50. What is it? Top team.
They have an All Pro.
All Pro
Sure.
PFF team.
So it has to basically happen during the first round.
From starting now, as I say these words, till Friday morning at midnight.
Okay. I'll take you on that.
I had Brandon Ayuk won't be on the Niners by Saturday night, so I'm with you.
I thought you said that wasn't happening.
Well, I just put it up as a sandwich prop.
That's
so
one of your 13.
Yes,
but
I
it
also
wasn't going to be your next one. Or
no,
was it?
because I also Devontae Adams won't be on the Raiders because I
You have
think
all
he's
these.
part of a deal to move the Raiders move up to get like one of the top 3 quarterbacks.
Whoa.
Devontae Adams has to be out the door for that, but that's not where I'm going with mine. But I
Okay.
will take you on this.
So
I
you-
will take
You will.
Yeah.
I will too. But you see what Mark is doing here. He's playing the game.
Yeah, he's
And I don't mean the game of the sandwiches.
I know what
'cause
he's
let's be honest. He last bought a sandwich,
Yeah.
not just for us, but for anyone. He's never eaten a sandwich. In
Not his thing.
1994 was when he last bought a sandwich for his friends or
It was the
himself.
last day of Camp Happiness.
Not
They got
accurate.
off the bus and they were right next to it.
I recall buying you like banh mi's or something at some point. I did do that.
Like, oh, look, it's a deli.
It was a while ago.
But go on. I know where you're going with this.
He's playing the game of life and the game of social media and the game of Mark gets one of these right.
Right.
If he just throws them out
Say it.
verbally out of
Just
the
say it.
podcast, eventually, he'll get credit
it's
for it
his.
from all the listeners, even though he's not playing by the rules. And I'm
He's
a
got
rule
50 things
All right.
there. Every time someone throws one out, you say 4 more that are on your list, and it's like, all right, they're not official, but you've now said them. But it's well played, Mark.
I think it's
But
savvy.
we see.
I also
We see.
I put a lot of work and thought into this, and so I don't
Okay.
want it just to be
Right.
when I close my Google Doc and then it's like gone forever into an abyss.
Right.
Unfair to the listener and to also myself.
Right.
But
But
those are spicy. They're
just
not
as
going to
an
happen. but
example,
they're
like
spicy.
when I throw out my onion hanger here, and then you're just stomping it all over it with all this, like Devontae Adams is getting traded, and this guy's going. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, it's just we're talking about Mark's.
Yeah, well, you gotta there. That people were saying that was a hotter concept right there.
So, but let's try to steer it back to someone else's.
I'm taking you on yours. I said.
Yeah, but that's so. And you're taking on mine.
Oh, yeah.
So a trade of a star player under any of those designations ahead of the draft. I always
just as
think
a
that makes
point
it
of
more fun.
It is. It would be fun.
AJ Brown being a prominent example 2 years ago. Was there one last year?
No, but it seems more like likely now that this can happen than in like
GMs
any other
in
time.
General GMs feel like their onions are bigger than they used to be.
I have just heard back from the Onion Committee. They do evaluations of what's an onion hanger. Make sure everything
Yes.
qualifies. That qualifies as an onion hanger. But they actually
Nice.
have come back to me and said your first one that you said 7 different guys at very
Right.
specific positions was a bigger onion hanger. So
Yeah.
you didn't. They believe you didn't calibrate which was the biggest. Correct. But
I-
either way, they're both.
I think
hanging.
I think I've earned a level of esteem within that committee, though. They're like, oh, this guy's playing to win and maybe lose, more likely.
And I thought you shook it up with your first prop. So
There you go.
that's a credit to you.
All right, one more, Mark. You've already given us 12, but what is your final?
Well,
official one?
so use this. I have one that exceeds beyond the draft a little bit, so I will ignore it if you don't want to hear that one as my onion hanger.
How far behind?
Well, it's I would call it
Just say it. Go
collateral
ahead.
damage.
Go ahead. What is it?
A general manager will be fired within 72 hours of the draft wrapping, and it will be a surprise. Just because that would be a surprise for anyone. But
Well, we've talked about George Payton. To me, that wouldn't be related like to the draft. It was like. Just
what if
kinda
I
they-
say not George Payton? Everyone, 31 other options.
No, actually, the Onion Committee has noted this happens a decent amount here. You know where they change.
They're not.
people
The
out
committee's
after the
voting this down as an onion.
Well, I'll
hanger.
give you a different one then. How about that? I'll
Go
kill that
ahead.
one.
What else you
Okay,
got?
okay. How about this? Because I've gone down this road before, and it's like I just know it's going to happen in our life at some point.
But let the record now state that Mark has now put it out there that if a GM is fired, he wins again.
Well, I think so.
And if no one gets fired, it will never be brought up again. So there's a nice little setup there for you.
How
Go
about
ahead.
this?
Yeah.
A major non-sports related news story will take wholesale precedence over the draft. Maybe not on day one or night one, but by the end of the selection process, it will barely be on anyone's mind, the draft itself.
Define anyone's. Like, what about
Okay.
us? Are we doing a podcast
We're,
that night?
I think we're, I like again. I'm not sure it's day one. I think we're by the time we're doing our Saturday recap, it will feel awkward.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I could accept that because we're doing a show Saturday.
I like this one.
This one hangs.
This
It's
one
a-
sounds like potentially sad, but
Yeah, it's a big
well,
enough
yeah.
story that our day 3 winners and losers podcast feels beside the point. Is what you're trying
A
to
little
say?
bit.
Kind
I
of
think-
Potentially
unnecessary.
insensitive.
I think but no, because like the show must go on, and we are going to give people what they want. At some point, they may not be listening to it for some people the minute it's released, but they'll be glad that we did it, and that's the way that we do business. But it will feel slightly awkward.
and maybe this because I've gone down a rabbit hole after O.J. Simpson died. But
It's
like
like
a
that.
Ford Bronco chase.
It's
type
like that,
situation?
where it's like Knicks Rockets
Right.
receded into the deep background. And by the end of that series, people were watching the end of that. They still cared about sports, but like
Right.
this became something
But like
much larger. A
more
sun.
likely because that was a 1 in a million thing. Like maybe something geopolitical going on.
I mean, sure.
Maybe Jessica falls back down the well.
Any one of well, I don't know about that, but like things of this.
40
nature.
years old.
I mean, this is all vague, but I'll accept it. I'll accept it.
What about the committee?
Yeah.
The committee does, or
They're fine with it. Oh yeah, I mean,
I hope maybe.
I mean, it's an onion
try
hanger,
these
and that like,
onions,
what are
you
the
like 'em, they're
chances?
real
I think
sweet
it's
onion.
definitely an onion hanger, and I will
they're
take you on it.
confused. The committee is confused. And just to circle back to tie a bow on it, there was a big veteran trade draft week last year. Aaron Rodgers was traded to the Jets.
Was it? I thought
April
it was earlier.
April 25th.
Uh,
Whenever I don't know, was
finalized.
that draft week? I don't even know.
It was right, maybe the week before.
Might have been.
Welcome to Jet Life Stadium.
I believe it was 2 days before the draft. Pretty crazy.
April 27th, 2023. How about that? So yeah, if you count, that one's a little different. That's kind of not exactly what I mean, but that was a different situation. But the A.J. Brown one is a perfect example. Like, is there some team out there that is going to make that big move to get a first-round pick or a second-round pick? We'll see. What would Brandon Ayuk get in a trade, for example? We would assume, oh, he's a first-round player.
Well, we don't.
Well,
know.
we got- now
Yeah,
we
we don't
know.
operate that way.
Now we know.
Right.
You don't got the wool over our eyes anymore. Football. Anything else?
I've got plenty
Mark, do you
more.
want to get anything else?
I've
off
got
your
plenty
chest?
more, but I'm gonna
It will dilute the ones that you've had. Just
say
Sit on them.
I'm gonna say I actually mentioned everyone that I created. So now that I look,
sometimes we've had the producer do one, but it's only occurring to me now, and I don't want to put Eric in a tough spot. You didn't have one by any chance, did you?
No. I'm also 3-0, so I don't want to.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't want to
Gonna
mess
sit
up my
on that
record.
1,000%.
Yeah,
That's smart.
This is when people retire ahead at top of the game and stuff. So I'm not going anywhere. But I'm just saying I'm not messing up my record.
That's smart, unless you're absolutely certain.
no producer's done that though. To go
No?
3-0, they've typically been horrible.
I'm impressed. All right, Wednesday. It's a big one. It's a big one. It's the Marc Sessler Mark draft. How many times have we done it? Got to be around 5 now, right?
I think I've seen 5 when I'm doing like my look throughs. I think
So this would be
this
6.
might be 6. Yeah.
I was doing it before we made a show out of it though. It was a tweet type of situation where
Right.
and a vast majority of people looking at it didn't realize that I didn't actually work in the draft in any capacity, and so they
Get any
seriously.
aggregate write-ups?
No,
you recall?
I don't recall that happening. I don't think it was taken that.
Maybe
seriously.
Maybe this year will be different.
It's crazy.
We've got to treat it seriously, and I think people will be pulled over their eyes.
You would have thought that an NFL media employee putting out a mock draft would just set the internet on fire, but not a huge.
You're getting them fired up.
That was back in the day.
One thing that will hurt us is I would think in terms of being taken seriously, which we struggle with in general as a show to be taken seriously, but the Marc Sessler Mark draft might be a little bit of a heads up to people that we're not your standard draft. But I stand by it as I think
we're the only Mark draft out there.
No other Mark draft.
You think Mark Ross is doing a Mark draft? No, he's doing a mock draft.
Let's get it
part of the system.
We need someone somewhere to aggregate it.
Yeah.
And it is a tremendous victory, not for me solo, but the show.
Well put. All right, that's it. We'll be back Wednesday. And then after that, we'll be back Thursday. And that will be the night of the draft. So we're getting there. Can't wait. Can't wait. Heed the call.